In today's section 3.4, we're going to talk about elasticity. Elasticity is an economic term, and it talks about the ability of a consumer to live with or without an item, or how much do we need that item. So when we talk about elasticity, there's two different things can happen. Well, actually three, but two main things. We have elastic demand or we have inelastic demand. And elastic demand is something that we can live without. So if you think about some things that we could live without, and what I say when I say that is, if the price were to increase, would you in your mind say, oh, I really don't want that, or I really don't need that? And kind of the thing that we talk about with elasticity is those things, those fundamental things. One example would be gas. So if the price of gas were to increase, would you stop buying gas? And at this point, you would probably say, no, probably not. Because as you think of it going up 20 cents or 30 cents or 50 cents. And when we say that, we think, yeah, well, we probably can't live without, or we probably won't change our habits if the price of gas were to increase. So we would call that an inelastic item, where we can't live without it. But what happens if the price of gas went up by $10 overnight? So right now it's about $2. If it were to go up to $12 tomorrow, what would your thought process be? Could you live without it then? And some of you would probably say, yeah, I could probably live without it. I'll probably walk, or I'll get a ride with somebody. I think I would probably reduce the amount of gas I use, and most of us probably would as well. So we would say that would be elastic. So an item is relative to its price for its elastic or inelasticness. So an item can be inelastic for a while, but as we raise that price, it becomes elastic. Same thing with an elastic item. We can lower the price, and as we lower that price, then we're going to see that price becomes then inelastic, or that demand is going to become inelastic. Hopefully that kind of makes a little bit of a sense. So what we want to see, or what we'll see, is that if a demand is elastic, as we increase the price, the revenue is going to decrease. Because if we can live without it, we're not going to buy it. But if we decrease the price, that's going to increase our revenue. So if we decrease the price of gas, or something that would be inelastic or elastic, might be tennis shoes, the Nike tennis shoes. So if we were to increase the price of those Nike tennis shoes, less people are going to buy them. So our revenue is going to decrease. But as our price were to decrease, if the price comes down on those Nike shoes, then the revenue would increase because we'd be selling more. Whereas in an inelastic product or demand, if we increase the price, the revenue is going to increase. So if we increase the gas price by just a little bit, then we're going to increase the revenue, the money that we bring in. It might not increase our profit because it might cost us a little more to get it, but it's going to increase our revenue. Whereas if we decrease the price of gas by a little bit, then we're going to decrease our revenue. Again, items can go from elastic to inelastic, and inelastic to elastic. We'll see that here in a little bit. So we define elasticity in calculus, and we can use calculus to do this. We'd say E of P, so the elasticity of the price, equals the negative price times the derivative of the price function divided by F of the price, or the value of that price. We have to remember that price comes from the demand function, but we also have to realize that F of P is going to be in terms of P. So we have to be in X equals form in order to be able to do these equations. Before, when we talked about revenue, we had to be in X equals form. Now we had to be in P equals form. Now we have to be in X equals form. Three things are going to happen with this equation, or this relationship. It's going to either be greater than 1, And if it's greater than 1, we're going to see a demand is elastic. So we should decrease the price to increase the revenue. We can see this fraction being less than 1, which is going to tell us that it's inelastic, which is we're going to increase the price to increase the revenue. Or we can see it equal to 1. Very rarely will we see it equal to 1, but really that's where we want to get to, because that 1 is going to be that point where we change from being elastic to inelastic. It's right on that cusp of, do we really need it? Yeah, we probably need it. But if we were to increase the price a little bit, yeah, I don't need it anymore. Okay, so when it's equal to 1, we call that unitary, where we should leave the price alone. We don't want to mess with it, because if we increase it, it would become elastic. If we decrease the price, then it would become inelastic. We wouldn't be realizing the maximum revenue that we could receive. So let's go ahead and look at an example of where we're going to see this and what we're going to ask you to do with it today. I split my paper here. I kind of should have put on a new sheet of paper, but I didn't. So I only have one example here. We have P equals, so the price of a item, doesn't matter what it is negative 200 x plus 300. We want to find the elasticity when the price is $100. So we want to find E of 100. If I go back up to my equation, I know that E of P is going to be negative P times F prime of P. So my E of P is negative 100. I got to find the derivative of this demand function. First thing though I got to do is get this into x equals form. Right now it's in price equals. I'm looking for the elasticity of the price, so I got to get it in x equals form. So x is going to equal, I'm going to subtract my 300, so P minus 300, and then I'm going to divide it by negative 200. That looks kind of nasty, kind of ugly. So what I would like to do is go ahead and split this up into its two fractions. So I get negative P over negative 200ths. If I take negative 200ths and change that to a fraction, I can write it as 2 over 100. So that's going to give me reduced negative 1/50th. And I would always suggest changing those decimals into fractional form. And then to this I'm going to add, if I take 300 and I divide it by that 1/50th, that's the same as multiplying 300 by my 50. And that's going to give me 15,000. Here I have P divided by a fraction, so I can go ahead and clean that up as well. Oh, that's not a negative P, is it? That's just a positive P. So we get negative 50, that's where my negative, I think, came from. Negative 50P plus 15,000. That's my F of P. I also need my F prime of P for my equation. So my F prime of P is going to be negative 50. So coming back up to my equation, I have negative 100 times negative 50 divided by F of 100. So F of 100, I come back down here, I have negative 50 times 100, so it gives me negative 5,000, plus 15,000, which is going to give me 10,000. So I have negative 100 times negative 50, that gives me 5,000 divided by 10,000. That gives me a value of 1/2. That 1/2 is very important to us. Again, it tells us the elasticity of this product. So the elasticity, we're less than 1, so we know that this demand is inelastic. So we should increase the price in order to increase revenue. I guess I should put the word "to" there. Well, the question is, how much should we raise it to? And this is going to be something that we're going to look at as well. At what price will the elasticity be unitary? So for it to be unitary, we want our elasticity to be equal to 1. So we want 1 to equal negative P times F prime of P, which is in this case negative 50, divided by f of p, negative 50p plus 15,000. If I solve this equation, that's, oh, you can't see it. There we go. So if we solve this equation, that's going to give me what my price is going to be in order for our elasticity to be unitary. To solve this, I can multiply my denominator over to 1. So I get negative 50p plus 15,000 is going to equal 50p. Add my 50p over. So I get 15,000 equals 100p. And then divide by 100. So I can go ahead and reduce that, and I end up with $150 equal to p. Oh, again, I ran off the paper. So at $150, I know that this is unitary. So this is where I want to be selling this item at in order for the general population to realize, yeah, this is a good price. This is kind of where I want to be at when I'm buying this item. If it was less, more people would buy it. If it was more, less people would be buying this product. So I hope that gives you kind of an idea of what elasticity is and how we can use calculus to define it. If you have any questions, give me a holler. Otherwise, good luck.